So we are completing our lower chakras in this video, and something that's been coming up a lot for me when I'm facilitating in people's feedback with awakened belly dance and with inner dance is this kind of childlike feeling and this inner child coming into play. And this is something I've been working on in myself for the last few years, because I can be quite a serious Capricorn, and the older I've got, I've found the more playful I've got and that I've learnt to become. Whereas I guess growing up I was quite serious in certain situations, but I had more of a kind of serious outlook that there was this thing that I had to do in my life, and I didn't know what it was, and I definitely didn't know how to get to it. But when I finally launched the Awakened Belly Dance training about 3 years ago, it was like this huge weight of seriousness lifted off me, because I knew that finally this was the thing which I'd been trying to do since I was about 7. And so with that weight lifting, it kind of freed me up to be, just to be much more in contact with this kind of joy and playfulness, and that this work doesn't have to be super serious and kind of in the depths of despair all the time. We can play with it and have fun with discovering our darker shadow sides. So in this process today, I want you to, as we're going to go through the chakras from root up to xiphoid, and I want you to have this more in mind about stories of where you are right now in your life and how they're relating to each chakra. So for instance, for me, when I made the root video, I said on the group page I got the most worst cystitis and thrush at the same time, and it was just excruciating. And then I taught an inner dance training, and the whole theme, because often I find that themes come up in groups, was all about root chakra. So within 2 weeks I'd made the video for you, and then I taught this group where it was all root related. Along with that, I was looking for somewhere to set up a retreat centre, knowing that I was really close after 1.5 years of looking, and getting so frustrated because I wanted it so much, but at the same time, because I've not really lived in a fixed place for about 4 years now, and even then, before then, I was still travelling around lots, but there was like a certain amount of fear as well, that do I want to make this commitment to this project and to a contract, and all of this stuff, and to pay this set amount of money each month, and I don't know, all kinds of things. So that happened. By the time we got to our sacral video, finally I had found a place, and kind of then it was, okay, well, how are we going to create this place? We've got the physical building and we've got that base. Now how am I going to create it and to make this dream come true? So moving from that, I'm kind of now more into into that flow of like, okay, we've got the place. I'm making frameworks for next year of how it's going to all happen, and then it's really standing my ground and standing in my power, that okay, don't run away from this, and just really go with what I feel, which is maybe gonna align with some people and not with others, because obviously it's a business and it's a risk, and what I want to do, or what I do isn't mainstream. So it's like, again, coming to that thing of not selling out, but how do I open it out to people, and or do I completely ignore that, and do I just stay completely in me? I think we know what the answer is. So, and in that staying completely in me, how do I connect then to source through this xiphoid, to connect to my original soul plan, to bring this to the world and to bring this to the planet, and holding that connection steadily and with trust. So this kind of thing, obviously each of you are going to have your own stories. This for me is pretty massive at the moment. For you it might be something that's more subtle. It could be with relationships, relationship with yourself, it could be with absolutely anything. But maybe look through your journal and see if you can see a chain of events and a theme coming through as we've worked from video to video. So, okay, so that's my therapy session done. So we're going to work with our bodies now. So coming into our root, taking your feet wide apart, and maybe a little bit wider than you have been, really opening your yoni out into the earth. And coming into your pelvis, forward and back, going a bit wider. So in the first root video we were drawing on the power of our ancestors and letting go of the patterns which are no longer serving us. So how can we continue to keep drawing on that power and use it to manifest things in this physical reality? And shake. So any residues, any little doubts or fears, any restrictions in your root, and just visualizing that your feet are sunken into the sand, into a burnt red ochre. And we have this red golden cord from our yoni, our perineum, our anus, and this cord is coming really strongly, connecting our womb, our center of us, into the central womb of the fifth dimensional earth. So again, rocking your foot, rocking your pelvis forward and back. And breathing up with your palms. Letting go. And bringing in. Feeling your root nice and open. As you begin to circle and thinking about the direction that you're going in. Is it from right to left? You're bringing the feminine to meet the masculine because this is brain-wise. Try and do it mirror. So you're feminine on the right side, masculine on the left. Do you need some grounding, some strength and support? So you're bringing the feminine to meet the masculine. Are you going from left to right? Taking the masculine to the feminine because you need to soften and bring more flow and spontaneity into your physical life. And it may be a combination of the two, or I often find that it's very definitely that my body wants to go one way or the other. So see where that takes you. letting go and drawing in, letting go, drawing in. Bringing your feet a bit closer together and more of a focused circle and spiral. It's really grounding deep, making this solid connection into your hips. Into our ovaries, weaving, drawing up from our roots into our sacral, red into orange, into the feminine, to emotions, to creativity, seeds of spontaneous creativity. And your womb rocking from side to side as you are rocked in a cradle or in somebody's arms as a baby, or as you have rocked babies. Visualizing pearls shifting from one side to the other, opening your womb space, bringing your fingertips again to your ovaries, closing your eyes, and now taking your hips back and very, very slowly beginning to walk backwards. So really tiny steps, and you can use whatever space you have, but just keep walking backwards, turning your hips and with your eyes closed, and trust your body will know where it needs to go. So if you keep walking as I'm speaking, and as each hip weaves, it's bringing energy and a groundedness into our seeds of creativity. And if you think about all the ideas and the dreams that you have, it's often quite mental, it's up in the clouds. It's in ways that you have these dreams and often we think, oh, but I can never do that, it's never going to happen. Of course we can do it. So by connecting into our root and bringing that energy up into the sacral, we're giving an earthiness and a physicalness to those ideas and those dreams that will then allow you to bring them more into fruition. And when you feel ready, as you keep moving, allowing your arms to follow your hips. And if you think of your arms as an extension of your heart, your womb is twisting side to side. Your heart and the extension of your heart is also twisting. Your womb is following your heart is following your womb. With our eyes closed, our third eye is activated, which connects with the sacral, and our intuition is leading us. keep moving and trusting. If you knock into anything, don't worry, just find your way. And remember that feeling of flowing without exactly knowing where you're going, and yet trusting that the outcome is going to be okay, and that it's maybe beyond what you could have imagined in those original dreams. It's something that our brains can't even perceive. And slowly come into a standstill, and with your hands in our yoni triangle, moving your hips forward and back, forward and back. Breathing in, out, out. So as your hips come forward, pressing the edges of your little fingers into this groove of our groin. This is where, for women especially, a lot of toxins get stored. We have a lot of lymph glands here. So we can begin to loosen those up. And then into a wave to our third eye, drawing up, and again allowing any sounds If you're not sure what sounds to make, a good way to start is with the vowel sounds. Back to our sacral. Weaving forwards and back from root to sacral, and coming up into solar. And at the beginning, what I said about what story is happening for you right now, don't worry too much if you haven't got something exact. It might be very obvious, like it has been for me. It may not be. So don't worry too much about thinking about it, but see what comes up as you journal afterwards. Come in onto what's known as our pubic bone, but a nicer name is the Mount of Venus, because the pubic bone, or pubis in Latin, means shame, means bone of shame. So it's quite helpful for us to be calling it that all of our lives, and never knowing, and reaffirming that that is what this area is. So our Mount of Venus, circling around and at the same time circling on your solar and connecting between the two, your sensuality into your feminine and masculine power. Now, any kind of negative connotations that you might have about that, especially for me growing up in the 80s and early 90s, on the TV I would see a lot of women who were power dressing, and it was all this Annie Lennox, you know, like women in suits and yuppies and women taking back control by being like men in the workplace. And obviously this isn't a healthy way to be, because we aren't men. So, but it was a way that women found at that time where they could try to get on an equal footing with men and be recognised. But the problem is they weren't being recognised as women, they were being recognised as women being like men. So anything where you're holding on to that kind of brainwashing, really, about what it is to be a strong woman, using these hip movements to draw that up and out. So wherever you're holding it, in your sacral and up into your solar, bringing the flow of the sacral up and into the solar to let that shit go. And this can also be maybe in your family, the roles that your parents had or didn't have, and whether you followed them or you rebelled against it. So these are just all interesting questions to look at within yourself without judgment. Because we didn't know, we weren't aware of what we were taking on board and what we were carrying, especially as children. And if you think of that baby to 7 years old age, this is where most of this conditioning and brainwashing happens. So letting go of all of that, drawing it up and out, up and out. And really feeling the whole movement so that you can go into the more subtle layers of it. We're not only digging from the top, we're digging from underneath and the sides. And our loops of energy are working from the solar now downwards. We're taking our power and our strength into the feminine and back into our root to give us the oomph to put all our dreams and our words into practice. So weaving down, 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 and breathe, taking it slow. That any parts that still feel a bit sticky, or is everything equal from one side to the other? Really taking it as an internal movement, thinking about what's shifting on the inside. All the way down and down, across this Mount of Venus, down through our cord, into the womb of the earth. And then from that centre part of the womb of the earth, we're going to weave back up, 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 tiny, tiny, really slow movements. Up and up and up. Up into our roots, opening our landscape, for want of a better word, wider in all directions, up into our sacral, opening the waters wider in all directions, up into our solar, and opening our fire outwards and in all directions. And it may be that with some of these movements you find that naturally your fingers want to touch your thumbs with one or another. So allow that to happen. You may find that you go into other movements spontaneously or stop moving. That's also fine. We're weaving up and up again, more into our whole body, into our chest, weaving from solar to our xiphoid, our highest solar energy point. And expanding the lower part of our heart, so that it's easier to move from lower into the heart next time. Allow your hair to flow, your neck, shoulders and into the back. Drawing up, and really like that arrow that we spoke about last time, really direct into that point or those points of fear, of separation, of the shadow masculine, the actions of him and the speech and the thoughts of him. How is he showing up in your life? And what patterns are you carrying from him? And if you think like a toddler having a tantrum, what is it that he's asking for from you? So asking your body, seeing what insights you receive. Digging a little bit deeper. And then bringing your hands into this mudra. It's from classical Indian dance, so it means yoni. So as we breathe in and out, wave coming up, Breathing into your root. Into your sacral. And you can breathe for as long as you need in each of these. And then into our solar Shiva Lingam. And breathing in and out and down to the earth. Thank you. See you next time.